Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Guest List podcast. I'm your host, Steve Guest. And for all of those that are tuning in for the first time and haven't listened to this podcast before, it was born out of my first book, Top Biller, The Life of a Recruiter. And I was getting bombarded with questions and scenarios and things like, can I grab you for a few minutes? Could you just help me with this? And I needed an outlet. I needed to do something where I found far more valuable people that could offer better advice than me, and invite them onto a podcast and have a chat with them. So this podcast is centered and aimed towards people that want to perform better, be that high performer. It's towards motivational leaders and inspirational mentors, coaches and managers. And I love doing these episodes, certainly when we've got guests involved, because they add so much value. I'm going to jump straight into today's guest bio. Today's guest is passionate about getting businesses seen and heard online. She's worked with a range of independent businesses throughout the UK to launch their online presence, develop and implement digital strategies that meet objectives and nurture online audiences. Today's guest says, in today's world, it doesn't matter how big or small your marketing budget is. You can represent one of the biggest names in your industry or an unknown startup who set up shop yesterday. The tools are just as accessible. You just need to know how to use them. Today's guest is the MD of Green Umbrella Marketing, a specialist marketing agency focused on social media, website design, and other online and offline marketing services. Christina Robinson, welcome along.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. Do you know, it's like listening to that bio every time. I'm just like going, oh. For someone that spends their whole life like putting the message out there, shouting about the good stuff. When you actually hear it back, sometimes you're just like, oh yeah, that's me, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the formalities, isn't it? Quite often,
It
I think when you speak to people and you see perhaps the outset or you read the bio, and then when you start just talking on a level to someone, we've met several times, we've had a number of conversations, haven't we? You are very down to earth, very approachable, very amiable, very knowledgeable about what you do, and that's the best part. We were just saying, weren't we, off air, that we have the conversation. Sometimes that's where the little nuggets of information are that we don't always capture.
Absolutely, that it is. It's where the gold is, because it's unrehearsed, it's off the cuff, and therefore it is actually it's what's actually at the core of you comes out in those conversations. And I think quite often that's where the value is.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking as well. I have to apologize in some ways. Certainly, if you're watching this on YouTube, why I look like I'm ready for the middle of winter. It's because if I take this top off, for those listening and not on YouTube, I'm wearing a blue gilet or gilet, depending on where you're from, and a grey jumper. So I blend nicely into the wall behind me. And if I didn't put this blue gilet on, I'd have a floating head. The prep prior to this podcast, obviously I woke up at 6:30 this morning and didn't preempt the fact that we had a grey wall in the office.
It's funny though, isn't it? The things you have to do, like preparation wise, when it comes to creating content. There's like, right, I've got to think about the idea. It's like, I've got a podcast as well. I'm interviewing someone. I've got to come up with the questions. So what's the concept? What do I really want to get out of this interview and the rest of it? And you're there and you're ready. You bought your mic and all the gizmos and gadgets and everything else. And you're there and you're ready. And then you're like, crap, should have worn a different shirt.
Yeah. But it's so true. I think back to perhaps who I was, 4 or 5 years ago, probably more before I suppose I attacked social media the way that I tend to do these days. I was so specific about things. I was so probably almost kind of perfectionist level. I wanted everything to be exact and correct, and the stuff that you have to do for social media, you're never going to get there. And I think it's more about taking action as opposed to ever getting anything 100% correct or in its right place.
Perfect doesn't get results, not on social media. No. It's and this, social media is my world. It absolutely is. I live in and breathe in it every day. The more you try and perfect something when it comes to social media, the less authentic it is. the less it lands, the less people engage in it. And like I said, that you then find that the results are not coming. And it is we put so much energy into perfection. And it's not that we should create something or put something out there that is going to embarrass us or damage our brand. But it is that if we get too caught up, we end up doing nothing. I've spoken to so many people where it's like they created the video or they've written the article or whatever it might be, and that video is in their camera roll, and that's where it's going to stay. And I've got all these blogs on my desktop. No one in the world is ever going to see them because they're not perfect.
Yeah. Or their thought processes, whilst they might be happy with it, they don't think it quite fits what their audience wants or needs to see. That's one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah.
How do you decide that? You haven't put it out.
What if no one reads it? Well, they're not reading it right now, are they?
Yeah.
What if no one likes it? What if they do?
Why do people get so hung up? I say that as if I was never in that position, because I was. But you will have more conversations perhaps than I do about that. It's that inner demon, isn't it? It's that inner chimp or that inner voice that says, nobody's going to look, nobody's going to be interested in what you've got to say. Why would anyone want to read what you've wrote? What is it? Because we all seem to have it to a certain degree.
Absolutely. So, but then it's like, it's a psychology thing, really. It's, we all want to be accepted. We all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. For some, and I come across people where this is a reality at different levels. So there are people that are just nervous of it. And if we can get over that nervousness, and I've sat on calls with people, we've put a LinkedIn post together and they're supposed to have posted it in the 2 weeks between our calls and they still haven't. It's like, I couldn't. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do it now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they have to hit the post button. Like that particular guy, you can't bloody stop him now, but that's where it was at the beginning. And it's just getting over that hurdle. But then there are other people where I need to be careful how I say this for the sake of anonymity. There are some people where putting themselves out there is a challenge. And actually, when you get to the root of the problem, it is, in this particular situation, there was another challenge going on with that individual's identity. Nothing to do with business, marketing, nothing to do with social media, anything. Just like they were having challenges in actually understanding who they were, and therefore being the person that could put content out there, there was a whole other piece of work that needed to be done there. I've had situations where someone was bullied as a kid, and actually it was a female in this situation. And the way that they were bullied was very much around their physical appearance. So the idea of, as an adult, the idea of photos and videos on social media going, hey, look at me, they just couldn't do it.
The roots go far deeper there, don't they? And I think sometimes we breeze past that and don't necessarily understand the complexities of actually what it takes to do something like that. I talk about it a lot in terms of, it's that fear of ridicule, whether you are successful or not. It doesn't matter what level you are, who you are, where you are, what you've done. There will always be someone or something that will try and drag you back down. And quite often it's when you're rattling a few cages because you're doing things that someone else is frightened of doing or insecure about. And we all know all of that, but actually committing and saying, do you know what, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, which is a brave thing to do. It takes courage. Absolutely takes courage. What's interesting is that, and again, there are so many layers to this. There's the thing of comparison. You see other people do it. There will be people in the recruitment world. They see Steve Guest. He's got his podcast. He's got his books, and and they're thinking look at all this stuff this guy's doing, and actually they're a bit resentful. Not because you've done it, but because they don't have the self-belief, the self-confidence, the self-worth to be able to take the risks and get it done. So, like I said, there is just so much to this that it is probably the most interesting part of what I do when it comes to the people I work with.
Yeah.
Because the reason they're coming to me is that they've got blocks. For some people, it literally just comes down to time. But more often than not, it's either there's an issue with their enthusiasm around it or an issue with the courage around it.
Yeah.
Whenever it's the courage, it's like the problem is not the problem. There is always something else at play.
Underlying. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Sometimes as a marketer, I become like, I do a lot of sort of mentorship in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten to a point where I recently took a week off to go and do a therapy qualification, basically.
Okay.
Because some of the conversations I've ended up having with people are like talking about stuff that's happened in their personal lives.
Yeah, yeah.
That's come from the fact that I told them to do a Facebook Live and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I can completely understand that, because as you say, it's deeper rooted than actually just putting a post out or recording a video. Whilst it might be that nervousness of the first time of putting yourself out there or doing it. I say we've all been there. You mentioned there about the fact that I've got podcasts and books and I'm posting on social media all the time, but I started at a point where I didn't want to do any of it. I started where I was putting a post out with no likes, no comments, no looks, no views, nothing, no engagement. And everything along the way has been a small step, and you've added to it, and then you've gone a different route and you've added a bit more, and then it slowly builds into something that's probably far more powerful than I thought it would be when I first put that first post out, however many years ago it was.
I think this is the thing, people will say, like, trust the process, because they're on the other side of it. But people never look at what you're doing and remember that you started from zero.
Yeah. Well, they perhaps weren't even there then. We perhaps weren't even connected. I remember, and I tell this story to everyone, in that it took me 2 years to post my first video. And I'd started mixing within property circles with progressive property over in Peterborough. It's Peterborough, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, God. And I was going to these seminars and they were saying, right, you need to tell everyone what you do, put everything out there. I want you to go live now in the break and go and tell your network where you are and what you're doing. And I was sat there going, I'm not doing that. I'd go and grab an extra pen from the car, or I'd go and find something else to do. I'd go to the toilet twice or have 3
Active procrastination.
Oh, 100%. There was no way I was doing any of that, because I was fearful of what someone might say for what I was doing anyway. And I reckon 18 months to 2 years, I was spending my time around people that were saying, go and do it. And I was just thinking, I'm not doing it. But at the back of my head, there is a voice that would say, you need to do it. It's that next step that you've got to go and do. And the value you get from it, because you could see people in the room and the value they were getting from actually just doing something simple. And quite a few of the listeners will know the story. I drove down to our Watford office, and it takes about 2.5 hours on a good day to get down there. And I was listening to Gary V and Crush It on Audible. I got up 5:30, 6 in the morning, so it was dark, it was early. I got to the Watford office about 8:15, I think. And I recorded my first video in the car park, looking like a hobo, probably a little bit like this, with my beard a bit too scraggled. It was early, I was tired. I'd had 2 cappuccinos, I think, on the way down, just for courage. And the first video was about 25 seconds, just saying, this is my first ever video, feel really uncomfortable. Please don't judge me. There's no value. There's nothing from this. It's just me getting over a personal hurdle. And from that moment, I've never looked back. And off that video, Chris Williams, who's pretty famous on LinkedIn a lot of the time with some of his posts, had put, now I challenge you to do 10 videos in 10 days. And I accepted it then, and then panicked immediately afterwards. But because I'd accepted it, it got me on a journey. And I think I'll be forever grateful for that part, because now there's no fear. And I think it almost created that habitual, I'm quite comfortable doing it. But again, it's never perfect.
Yeah, and do you know what? I would challenge the no fear thing, because this is part of it as well. People that are, that they're not doing things like this on a regular basis. They see people like you and me who are, And they're like, oh yeah, but they're different. They're like, they've got this thing that I haven't got. But actually, yeah, you know, I mean, we are pretty weird. But it's like, I still get nervous. I still get that, like, oh my God, what is it I'm supposed to be saying now? This is the thing, okay, is that we will never get to a point where we like hearing our own voices, like watching ourselves. I've got I don't know, it's about 70 odd episodes of my podcast. I think I've only ever listened to one, if I'm completely
I've never
honest.
listened back to mine.
You know, it's like my content, I write it goes to the team for them to proofread. I don't read it again. You know, it's a right. So we jumped on the call, like, here's the bio, all that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, don't read that one. That's got all the achievements in. That's just bragging. I'm like, oh, and like Steve's sort of saying to me, like, you know, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with that? And I'm like, oh yeah, but you know, oh, it's like we still have it. Like we still have it. We want all the attention. We just don't want anyone to notice us at the same time.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a struggle, isn't it? But it's at the same time, it's not a struggle in parts because it becomes easier to do it. But I'm like you, I don't look back, I don't rewatch. Once the video, I'm comfortable with what I've said and how I've said it, and the content is good, and I haven't missed too much stuff out that I'd planned to say and then didn't. If it's good enough, it just goes and it's gone.
Yeah.
Because that's social media, isn't it? It doesn't last an eternity, generally.
Exactly. And I think this is the other thing. People think, well, I've said it once and it's out there. Now I need to get something new to say. And it's like, no. Sometimes we just need to say the same thing over and over and over. Yes, in different ways, in different formats. Yeah. But it's, you know, how many times have I talked to people over the last 10 years about being consistent? How many times have I talked to them about, you know, making sure they're delivering value, about creating assets, about repurposing? It's like, I will never stop, never, ever will I stop talking about those things. But every time I talk about it, it's in a slightly different way, slightly different time, maybe a different platform, maybe it's written, maybe it's a video. And it's these core messages we have to keep delivering, because people won't hear them until it's the right time for them to hear them.
Yeah, completely true, isn't it? I think sometimes we always think, well, we've put the message out, so it should be heard. But actually, we're not even sure that the people listening are listening yet. And your network changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, there's a flip side to that. You know, you said about the early days, you put something out there and it's like tumbleweeds, like no one's seeing, no one's hearing. And then you get to a point where, you know, you're getting like 10 people seeing your post. You've got, you know, you've got 25 comments, you're going, woohoo.
Yeah.
It's not about having, like, this is not a numbers game, because actually you could have 1,000 people comment and it doesn't matter to any of them. You could have 10 people comment, and one of those 10, what you've just said, the way that they've received that communication is just created the biggest shift in them.
Yeah.
To help them make that one decision that's now going to change their life. And it sounds dramatic, but it happens every day.
Massive. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago. I did a podcast. I do solo podcasting between the guest podcasts. And I'd had a conversation with my eldest son, who's 10. And I can't remember the context of the conversation now, but his basic answer was, we will find a way. We'll find a way of getting a solution and making it happen. And that was the podcast. It lasted 8 or 9 minutes. And I had a guy message me from, I think he's based Hong Kong. Pretty sure it's Hong Kong. I'll have to double check. But it was a message via LinkedIn just to say, I listened to that podcast and love the way that your son responded to you. And from that, I took his way of thinking, and it's just created an extra revenue stream for my business, because I was faced with a scenario that I could then answer by saying, we'll find a way. And he's crediting it back to a podcast that I put out. There was an 8-minute session of me talking to my lad.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's crazy. And those messages aren't like in isolation. And it comes from social media posting. It comes from sharing a journey. It comes from hopefully trying to add value along the way. And I think sometimes we miss the importance of just trying to give out help, support, information, add a bit of value, get people around you where you can effectively all head in a similar direction to have success and enjoy it as well.
You know, community is everything to me. It really, really is. And it always has been. But I'd say that probably the last year, 18 months, I really connected to what my personal values were. So things like, you know, actually like giving to, in my younger years, a lot of people gave to me in times where emotionally I was lacking. Let's put it that way. Okay, you know, a lot of people have difficult upbringings. I'm in that camp. Okay, and where I was lacking at home, other people gave to me, and I feel very, very grateful, very fortunate for that. But what that's created in who I am today is someone that is incredibly giving. It's constant, like, how can I add more value? What can I do for you? You know, and I think that's kind of like how we first met. You were doing something, it's like, right, how can I help you? You know, that's where I come from. Well, actually, when you then really connect to what your values are and how you want those values to show up in your life, once you've got that level of awareness, that's when the community seem to find you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like all of a sudden you find yourself in a circle of people where people have those shared values. Now it's not just you putting the good out into the world, you're part of a community that's doing it. So, you know, someone's got a podcast, someone's doing this, someone's doing a charity thing, and it's like everyone's then helping everyone else. But you're now in a community where everybody wants everyone else to succeed because they're coming from that place, and they want to succeed themselves, but not at the cost of others. They want other people to succeed along with them. It's a beautiful place to be. What happens on the flip side of that, people that are perhaps their values are the opposite.
Yeah.
They see it and they're like, oh, she's in a cult.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I am. And I tell you what, I'm in the best cult on this planet. Yeah. You know, it's like all the love and good and everything else that's going out into the world. I'm like, yeah, give me more of that.
It's so true, isn't it? I think I obviously still recruiting day to day. That is the day job. And I've pretty much fought probably 10, maybe a bit long, 10 years or so, to convince people around me that social media, personal branding, building an awareness where you're consistently turning up every day on somebody's timeline to post what you do, how you work, where you add value, your successes, your down days, your good days, the rejections, the positives, and all of it. Because there's no, I suppose, instant gratification, or no, you can't link a placement necessarily to a post. I mean, you could obviously if they've applied directly through that, but it's not always that easy to do, or to kind of attach a placement to, because it's that consistent of, I've been watching you for 12 months, I've been following you for 2 years, we've never spoke, but I think now's the time, I'm looking for a new role, or I followed you for some time, I know you recruit for surveyors, we have a need, could you come and help us? Those sorts of messages almost kind of go, I suppose, hidden in the direct messages or the emails, and you don't attach them to a personal brand as such. And I think as recruiters, unless you're doing it, you never see it. And you can never say, actually, by posting twice a day, every day, Monday to Friday, which I've done probably for 10, maybe 6, 7 years, maybe, might have been slightly longer. I know that it works in terms of building that brand and the awareness. It helps me sell books. It helps me get people to listen to the podcast. It helps me make more placements. It helps me grow a business. They're all from a selfish perspective, what the values are from me consistently posting. But actually, the bigger picture there is the support and the network that you have around you that then start to tag you in things, and the opportunities get bigger. But people still don't post.
Yeah, because hindsight's a wonderful thing. I've done a just before us recording this, I've had one of our clients come in. They started working with us about 8 weeks ago, so we're doing the first review. We're looking at their stats, we're looking at their their Google Analytics, their like how much their network has grown on LinkedIn. We're looking at the leads coming into their business. Everything is massively on the up, from them doing nothing to us. And we don't just dive in and like just start going like hell for leather on day one, because that would look weird. So we've kind of needed this sort of graduated beginning to like get the machine going and tweak things on the way. And they're just like, oh my God, right, so this is working so well, what else can we do? I'm like, whoa. We've still got a little bit, like we need to stick with this strategy for like, 6 months at least, and then let's look at we talk about layering other things on in January. I could go yes and take all the money today, but what we're doing is a long-term play. And this is the thing, they're only able to think that way because of hindsight. On day one, it's all very intangible. I'm going, this will work, and they're like, if you say so, Christina.
Whatever.
Posting every day. What if we just did 3 a week? Like, nope. And it's like, and even though they're still fighting a little, and they're like, but okay, but how many bits of content do I need to give you? I was like, if you can commit to giving me 2 a week, then if you can commit to giving me 2 bits of content a week, that's all I need to be able to do like a whole month and then some. And they're like, but then this is the thing, it's like, okay, what's content? They're thinking they need to go and do this big research piece and the rest of it. I'm like, no.
Reinvent the word content.
I'm like, no, just twice a week. I want you to tell me, just think about and it doesn't matter what you could be. You could be a recruiter, you could be in construction, you could be in property, doesn't matter, right? If every week you spent 10 or 15 minutes and you just went, right, in the last 7 days, who have I spoken to? And what conversations have come up? What's the topic of conversation that's come up 2 or 3 times? What's the frustration that I've felt on that person's behalf? There's 2 bits of content right there. And you know what? They're probably not content items that are important to you, but they're bloody important to the person you're trying to sell to. Sometimes I
miss the easiest bits, don't they? I think sometimes. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it's like all we've got to do is evidence what we're doing day to day. It's as simple as, I need to do a bit of content on keyword research. Why? Because twice this week I've talked to people where they've asked me questions around keyword research. Simple. Okay. I don't even do keyword research. I do websites, I write copy, but when it comes to like doing like real detailed keyword research, my opinion is, for the types of businesses I work with, don't waste your time. Okay, there's like 2 or 3 things you need to do those. I'm going to include those 2 or 3 tips in the blog. Do these, then crack on implementing everything else. Get that all working. When it's time to sort of dial things up, that's when you then go back and spend a bit more time on that keyword research, keyword planning, that kind of stuff. And it's like, let's get up and running first.
I say we go back to things like content and content ideas. Content's all around you. And I find myself repeating myself so many times. And quite often it's staring you in the face. More often than not, it's hit you around the face 2 or 3 times in a day. And you sat there going, I wonder what I can post today. And I sit there going, well, what's happened? Why are you so happy? Why are you so sad? Why hasn't that happened? What's your client asking you to do? What does a client do when they say, why would I choose you over anybody else? What do candidates say when they say they're really happy with the service? What have you done that's given them a great service? These are things around you.
That's my favorite question to ask people. But the problem is that I've done it every now and then. I've asked this question at about 10, 11 o'clock at night, like at the end of a dinner when everyone's had a few glasses of wine, and not everyone drinks as well as I do. And then I've ended up in a row. Okay. And there's 2 questions. So first of all, it's like, why would someone use you rather than one of your competitors? And they go, well, I'm the best and I'm this and I'm that. And I go, okay. And I pick up my mobile phone and I hold it up and I go, prove it.
Yeah.
Show me the evidence. And then, of course, because we've already had the conversation, they're not using social. They think social media is BS. They're not using email marketing because they don't want to annoy people. That and they're hiding all this stuff away. And I'm like, well, okay, let's say I'm one of those prospects. Why would I use you? Show me that you are the best. Prove it. Yeah. It's not out there. They can't. And they want and like I said, when it does touch a few nerves, it's usually in businesses that are struggling. There's competitors are putting stuff out there that is evidencing their successes, is evidencing their level of compliance, perhaps. Okay, and they're getting frustrated, they're getting nothing because they're hiding it all away. They're looking at that other person or that other brand and going like they're doing all this stuff, but maybe they think that it's being fabricated or whatever because they've got insider knowledge. But the reality is the outside world, they can only go on the evidence before them.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, we shouldn't be fabricating stuff. I want us to be transparent. I want us to be honest. I want us to be humble as well. Talk about where we're crap at things as well as where we're good at things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's lay it all out on the table. Because at the end of the day, people listening to this podcast, okay, there will be like 20% of them will listen to my ramblings and think, oh my God, she's brilliant. Like they'll be connecting with me on LinkedIn, following me on Instagram, listening to my podcast, reading my blog, all that sort of stuff. 20% of them will think, who the is this person? Right. And they'll be like, if they did anything, they'd be jumping on all the channels and blocking me left, right, and center. Like they don't want to hear or see from me ever again. The rest just don't care.
Yeah.
They'll be like, okay, yeah, it was all right. On to the next episode. And that's the reality we're all facing. Like 20% of the people that come across you are going to love you. So just serve them. Focus on serving them. Don't worry about the rest of it.
Yeah. So talk to me about kind of before all of this happened. So where did it all come from? Where was the idea from? What was the catalyst to get you to where you are now?
Oh, well, my story is a little bit different because so Green Umbrella as a business started in I've got to think and get it right. Where are we now? 2022. So so about 2010, Green Umbrella started. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was launched by a lady called Julia Doherty. So she had been a recruiter, sold her independent recruitment agency to sort of one of the corporate recruitment businesses and started off this little marketing agency, just like, in Daventry, which is a very much a little spot on the landscape. It's about 1984 here now, real sleepy town. And I started working here as a part-time freelancer. Well, it'll be it's actually 10 years in January. Okay, so it's part-time freelancer, and basically within 6 months I was second in command in the business, on payroll, and it was just a massive shift. Before that, I'd not really done anything in marketing. I'd been working hospitality and events, and I'd just, like I said, crappy childhood, left home at 16, had 3 jobs to keep roofs over my head, and just found my way into the hospitality world, doing all this stuff. But because I'd always been very entrepreneurial, I'd always done, wherever I was, I'd done really well. And then sort of 2008, 2009, we all know what happened then, made redundant, crap, what we're going to do now. I know, I never went to university, and now I've got 2 kids. I'll do that now so I can be an exemplary role model. And I'll go and get a degree in something I know, because surely that will make life easy. So I did a degree in event management and bloody hated it. Absolutely hated it. So I dropped out. And the only bit I did actually enjoy was this one module we did within the marketing element that was around social media. Up until that point, I was like, social media is for people with massive egos. What's the point? I don't get it. But this module really shifted my attitude around actually how can a business use social and the power it had. So when I dropped out of uni, I was like, okay, now I'm really screwed because I got a load of debt and nothing to show for it, and no job, and like just crap. I know what, I'm pretty sure there's a way of creating some sort of business. Like, what if I did social media for businesses? Start doing some research, and there's this little, green umbrella marketing was literally like not even a 5-minute drive from my doorstep.
Okay.
Few days later,
No
they're
brainer.
advertising, and I'm like, okay, off we go. But the thing is, like back then, and even like the first few years, I was, like I said, that was I was here as an employee for 6 years, and then in 2019, I bought the business.
Okay.
We went through management buyout.
Yeah.
I spent those 6 years really understanding, basically running other people's brands for them, creating the content, positioning them, both as a business brand, but also as a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I put all this energy into the personal brands of other people, getting fantastic results and really helping them grow their businesses, and doing all the stuff I talk about today. But I wasn't doing any of it for myself because my mindset was that I was the university dropout who'd left home at 16, that never really done like everything I've done in life. I've like not really, what a failure was I? I'm always going to be average at best. And that was my little voice in my head that was just kept playing. And all of a sudden I went, hold on. I am actually the contributions I'm making to these clients through the marketing activity. Like this isn't little changes that I'm seeing people make. These, I'm seeing businesses go from having registered to cracking 6 figures, cracking 7 figures because of the work that I'm doing. And actually, I'm quite good at this stuff. And that kind of grew. And luckily, again, the people you have around you makes a big impact. I was working with an entrepreneur that really supported that entrepreneurial culture. Like I said, I was very entrepreneurial. So that just developed the personal, wanting to improve myself personally, mentally, just all of that just like snowballed really. And then we suddenly got to a point where it's like, okay, well, what if I did actually invest in my own personal brand? And this was, I'm trying to think timing wise, it was LinkedIn had not long introduced their LinkedIn publisher feature where anyone could publish articles on the platform. Okay. When that first started, it was a bit hit and miss. And then all of a sudden it was like, anyone could publish anything. And it worked really nicely. And this was when I wrote my very first article. And again, those little things of like, I can't write. I actually don't enjoy writing. And I remember there's only one thing I hate more than writing. And that's like watching the same Disney film, like for the 158th time. Yeah. And when you've got 2 girls, so I can't remember what the film was, but it was like another and I was like, it's probably like Aristocats.
Okay. Little Mermaid or something.
Oh yeah, and they put it on. I was like, right, I'm going to write this out. I'd actually rather write this article. So I wrote it, read it, and I swore I'd never read one of my own articles again, and I don't think I have since. Anyway, I was supposed to send it to Julia. I was like, so I'm just going to put it on LinkedIn Publisher now, and if nobody likes it in the next like couple of hours, I'll just delete it again, and no one needs to know I even wrote it. At this point, I had something like 200 connections on LinkedIn.
Okay.
By the next morning, there had been like over 6,000 views, like the comments, the like just the interaction on it was crazy. My network, I'd now like gone over the 500 mark, and it was like, oh, okay, maybe I have got something to say. Maybe I do need to stop hiding in the shadows. And for me, that became a bit of a catalyst in terms of that mindset shift. Mm-hmm. And I said, from there, it's just like everything's exploded. And, I think about that quite a lot. You only need to do it for the first time once. Once you've done that, it's done. It's like, once you've done it once, you can improve it. when you've never done, you can't improve on something you've never done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm now at, like, you know, today we'll finish this interview. I then need to go and write my weekly article. That'll be the 3rd article I've written this week. You know, I still don't like writing. I still don't read my own stuff. And in fact, if you ask me what it was I wrote for last Friday's article, I haven't got a clue. I don't even remember. It's like I'm really not that tactical. It's like, because I literally go, right, what have I been asked about this week? I try and think of at least 3 things that have come up, and I go, right, which one of those do I want to write about? And that's what I do. You know, and that is my content strategy in terms of blog articles. You know, as long as
it's simple and effective. And I think sometimes we so overcomplicate stuff that actually just having a focus, having clarity, getting it done, actioning it, putting it out and moving on, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Some will fly, some won't. Some will get lots of interaction, some won't. Don't put any or too much pressure on anyone being one or the other. You're not going to get the next viral post the next time you post, but you might. Who knows?
But it's consistency that does it. And I think this is the thing. From writing that first article, I was like, okay, I need to write at least one every other month. And I did that consistently. And then that became once a month, twice a month, and then every week, you know, and it's like we don't have to. This is the thing. We don't have to start off by doing 2 things a day every day.
No.
We don't have to. If we can, brilliant. Okay. But if that's going to be overwhelming, if doing 2 things a week is comfortable, is manageable, like, you still need to feel a bit of a, like, if you're like, yeah, I can do 2 things a week, make it 3. You've got to have that little bit of tension in it to make it a challenge. Right. But do it with consistency. When that becomes easy, turn it up 1. Turn it up 2, and just keep building, because it's amazing over time. Once you're in this habit, I say you crack the habit initially, the volume then doesn't seem to matter so much because you're in it then.
It doesn't, because I think you get to a point where it's just because you know it's all around you, because the content's all around you. It's just about how you strategically place it as a post, whatever you choose to do in whatever format.
But
This is up your own engagement, don't you?
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, what I love most about, and it's, you know, it's in my bio. Anyone can do this. You don't have to, like, I'm not superhuman. I'm not that special. Okay, what is special is the system. What is special is the process. Okay, and like, between us, even that bit is not that smart. It's just like, show up, back you. You know, I'm gonna develop a line of stationery and like wristbands and things like that. Literally just say, show up, back you, because it is that simple.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, okay, within the guests that I've had on this podcast, I think it's always important that anybody that's ever got anywhere generally has people around them that motivate, influence. The days where it's perhaps not going so well, you turn to someone that picks you back up or energizes you. It might be that you watch YouTube, people on YouTube. It might be the normal, typical Darren Hardy's, Tony Robbins, Gary V's of the world. Who do you always have around you? Who are your perhaps team of go-to people when you need them, or who have you had around that's influenced you to get to where you
are? Okay, so having a mentor, like, coaches are great, but you need a mentor. Okay, and you've got to be ready for it, definitely. If I think about just the last few years, you know, there have been challenges in business and personally. It's very, very clear to me that I wouldn't be where I am today, just mentally, just from a mindset perspective, let alone in business, let alone personal brand, without the right people in my corner. So there's a guy called Spencer Lodge out in Dubai who's, you know, he would describe himself more as a sales coach. I wouldn't have my podcast if it wasn't for him. He's the one that kicked me up the backside and was like, no, you are doing this and you're going to bloody do it now. But he's become a dear friend, and you know, you need people that will give you the cuddle talk, and you need people that will call you out.
Yeah.
You know, and Spence was definitely that person for me. There's you know, Jamie York, I know is he's been on your podcast as well. You know, again, you know, it was you know, I was part of a mastermind that he was leading, and he's like, Jamie and I are like, the banter that we have, like if anyone saw the messages backwards and forwards, it's like they'd wonder what the hell was going on. You know, it's the language is choice, let's put it that way, and the names we call each other and that sort of thing. But it was the, you know, being in business and being focused, but actually having that release of it. You know, business should be fun as well. We should be able to enjoy this stuff. More recently, I've been working with a guy called Jess and James, especially like on the you know, I do a lot of public speaking, which I'd kind of, first time I did some public speaking, it was because someone else had double booked themselves and I had to go and stand in. And I knew the content inside out because I've been in the room so many times before, but I'd never been stood in front of it.
Yeah, different kettle of fish there,
yeah. But I mean, bloody terrified, absolutely terrified. And so I've never had any training. Do I think I'm good? I don't know. So when I started working with Jessen, I didn't know if I was good, but I did know a lot of people that I was definitely better than.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, you go, yeah, okay. You know, it's like podcast. You listen to someone else's podcast, you're like, yeah, mine's better than that.
Yeah.
You look at their guests, you're like, yeah, I'll get better guests than that. Have I got the best podcast in the world? No. Have I got the best guests? Well, obviously you have. But
I was just going to say.
So, you know, I kind of, and it's actually, it goes to show how we have to be open-minded, loving, giving human beings. When I first met Jess and James, I walked into a room. I'd been invited to go to this event to basically check Jessen out. Okay, I'd been told about him. There were the part of a program I'd been in. There was a bit of movement there, and Jessen was like, you know, the person was going to be taking it forward. Never heard of him before. I was pissed off. I was like, I don't like change. I don't want this change. Like, nobody has asked me.
Yeah.
So I literally walk into this room, like, but may as well have been like arms folded, stamping my feet, having a proper toddler strop. You know, I'm amazed I didn't throw myself on the floor, frankly. And it's like a 4-day event. And I remember, because like I'm a loving, beautiful human being. But on the morning of this event, I walked up to him, I shook him by the hand, and I said, I'm literally here to check you out. And it was like, you know, I was like, I am known for being a little direct. Anyway, by that afternoon, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's the real deal. Okay, I get it now. Like, okay, yeah. And that's like, you know, that's like 18 months ago. Okay. And now we have a lot of conversations around business strategy, but we have more conversations around actually, what do I really want? Who am I really? Where am I going personally? Like I said, you know, the speaking stuff, I've got myself onto, you know, I've shared a stage with like Marie Forleo and Stephen Bartlett now, and it because of the confidence that this person, yeah. And you know, would I have done that without Spencer in my corner saying, like, you realize you're a special kind of person, without Jessen saying, like, you know, stop messing around on these little stages, like, well, you go and do that. Actually, these are the tools you need to be able to develop your speaking so that you can smash that out the park. Yeah. You know, it's that, you know, I would have said to you 2 years ago, 3-4 years ago, yeah, I'm awesome. But it was words. I didn't really believe it. But having the right people around you, when they believe it in you, when you're surrounded by people that believe in you, it's very difficult to not believe in yourself.
Well, you go up levels, don't you?
Yeah. But the thing is, I think there are so many different aspects of life. You know, we've both got businesses. We're both trying to, you know, build our personal brands. I'm sure we both, I've got personal goals, and I, conversations we've had privately, I know there's some crossover in that as well. Yeah, things that, you've got the books. I'm still talking about writing my first one. Who knows?
We'll get you there.
I might talk about it some more next year. But we've both got kids.
Yeah.
We've both got, it's like it's all of those the personal stuff as well, and you have to keep all of this in balance. And we think about coaches and mentors, and you think, like I said, Spencer deals with sales, so you just have sales conversations. No, we talked about, but my kids are both older, 22 and 17. It's my youngest birthday today, actually. So as kids going through their teenage years, sometimes it's like, your sales pipeline in your business, although it needs some work, that's not your biggest priority that day. That's not the thing you're having a breakdown over that day. So you end up having those conversations, and I think this is the thing. And again, if I think about Jess more specifically, the reason we've had a fantastic relationship, the reason he's been such a great mentor, is that I go a million miles an hour. And I'm like, I tell everyone ever, I'm a massive overshare. If you're in my circle, there's not much you don't know about me. Okay. But when things are not good, when I'm having a wobble, I just shut down. I go really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like when you've got the right people around you, they know you on that level.
Yeah.
And it's, I've talked about it publicly a couple of times, a couple of different places. Just between Christmas and New Year, I had one of those wobbles. I was really, really struggling. Mm-hmm. And actually, I wasn't going to my mentor saying I'm struggling. I got a message going, right, tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
Because they noticed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the thing, when you've got the right people around you, they notice, they show up for you.
Yeah.
And and the right mentors are surrounded by, Jessen has a community here in the UK. I'm very grateful to be part of that. Mm-hmm. It's not just him that shows up for me. There's the connections I've made within that community as well. I have a real solid circle of people around me. So like the last couple of days, this week has just been one of those weeks where everything's amazing. Like even the shit things that have happened are like epic. I'm like, I love it. Life's brilliant. And I'm like, we're dancing in the office and singing songs. And like yesterday I had a rights drop because one of our service providers, so on the back office side of the marketing agency, I was not very happy with, shall we say. And then everyone in the office, like I was just like, I couldn't say anything. I could only shout and use profanity for about an hour. And Kim in the office, she basically went and made some lunch for me. Nice bit of chicken and rice.
Nice.
But she put the chicken on the rice like a heart, like to show me some love.
Which is exactly what you needed.
I know. So I'm like every day I'm going, rah! And they videoed, so that there's a video, and it's like just outside of our office in the corridor. She's like, Christina's had a bad day, so this is what we've done. They videoed them like coming in. You could like on this video, you should see my face. I was not happy, and then like presenting it to me, and I just like I'm just fits of giggles. But it's like that I'm sharing with this community, like the wins.
That's what you need, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's an understanding.
But equally, it's, to be able to send a message to these same people and go, do you know what, guys, I've just had this happen and it's like, it's really shit and I don't know what to do.
Mm.
To be able to send a message and go, guys, like this, and this has happened over the last couple of months. I need to celebrate. When are we going out? And I think this is the thing that we talk about, having the right people around us. We think about mentors. I know I've talked a lot about that, but we need people that are just ahead of us. Maybe some people where we're a little bit ahead of that. I always think like middle of the pack is the best place to be, because there's room for you to grow, but there's also people that you can kind of pay it forward to as well.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so anybody that's listened to this, anybody that needs help with their marketing, their social media, support in terms of getting their business out there, where do they need to go? What do they need to do? Where are they going to find you?
So best thing is to head over to green-umbrella.biz, B-I-Z. So yeah, jump on the website. We've got a goodies page. There's a bunch of freebies there. So like whatever sector you're in, there will be something there that can help you. And yeah, if you just want to chat with me specifically, like just, yeah, find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, Christina_talks is where I talk about a little bit, you know, what do I talk about? Marketing stuff, mindset stuff, random stuff sometimes as well. But basically on Instagram, it's not
We
just
all need
the
a bit of
marketing.
random.
I love a bit of random. So this is the thing, like we should all have 3 words. Okay. There should always be like 3 things that you're known for. So for me, it's marketing, mindset, and mischief.
I love that. The 3 M's. Quality. Okay, so question I always ask everybody that comes onto the podcast: if you were to leave the listeners with one single piece of advice, what would that be?
Do you know, I said it already. Show up and back you.
Yeah, good stuff.
In everything you do, show up and back you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. I've loved it. Thank you for having me.